Secretary Kennedy, thank you for being here. You mentioned China. I was just chairing a committee for the last 2 hours on China's rampant theft of intellectual property and all the other malign activities they're involved in, which actually takes me back to a statement I think you made a while back about China is eating our lunch on pharmaceutical innovation. I think there's an argument to be made that we're handing China our lunch. I've talked about this in the committee for several years. By simultaneously cutting NIH funding for basic research and imposing MFN price controls that slash private R&D by 30 to 50%, HHS is squeezing both sides of a balloon and expecting it not to pop. And I'm not picking on this administration. It's exactly what the Biden administration did with the Build Back Better bill. Within 6 months of passing that bill, trying to impose price controls, we saw a 40 to 60% drop in small molecule research. It's inescapable, the connection between the two. So I think that these steps that this administration's taking, similar to the steps of the Biden administration, China gets the IP, China gets the manufacturing, America gets the lower prices on drugs we didn't invent, produced in facilities that we don't own, and you've already alluded to the unacceptable circumstances in China for the workers and those there. We're aiding and abetting that, I think, through this policy. So MFN tells the world that America will no longer invent in the future, in my opinion. Now I want to get to a question, give you a chance to answer that. For years, I've been saying that we've got to drive down health care prices. We've got to drive down the cost of pharmaceutical drugs. But we have a simplistic approach that we use here. We never have everybody in the barbershop at the same time. We just try to scalp whoever we can as a matter of public policy. MFN is the most recent example of that. MFN is the most aggressive single-link intervention in a complex value chain attempted at the federal level. It doesn't address supply chain concentration or IP theft. It just hammers the end price and hopes that the rest of the system magically adjusts. So, well-intentioned single-link interventions have failed for a decade. What, other than political branding, makes this one different? In other words, the Democrats had embraced this for years, this sort of socialized approach or socialized approach to controlling prices. What's different about now the Republican approach to do almost fundamentally the same thing?
Senator Tillis, when President Trump charged us with lowering prices to the same as Europe, he also made two separate provisos. He said he did not want to end the research domination in U.S. companies, and he said he wanted them to reshore pharmaceuticals, which seemed like an impossible task. We managed to do all three things, and the truth of that, our success of that, is reflected in the share prices of those pharmaceutical companies that went up about $1.3 trillion after we signed the agreement. And the way the magic, part of the magic.
And are you certain that we will see an equal or greater amount of R&D coming out of these companies that have taken price cuts?
Yeah,
because we've seen the empirical data from Build Back Better, it didn't prove to be true.
Look at the investments they're making in our country. I think Eli Lilly's building 6 new plants, Pfizer's building plants, Merck is building plants, everybody is building plants here in this country, and
so why not, if the policy is working so well, why not apply to MFN to everything versus the select number that you've chosen to negotiate agreements with, and I think have recommended that we codify those agreements?
We chose the top 17 companies that produce 99% of our drugs, our brand drugs, and we have agreements with.
But if it's working well, why not this just be a universal? If it's working well and sustainable, why not this just be a universal program for any drug that makes it through FDA approval?
Each one of those companies had separate needs and separate circumstances, and there's separate agreements with each one of them. A lot of it, the magic behind it was that we used tariffs, forced the Europeans to raise their prices. With that in mind,
how could you possibly codify that if it represents different? I know that there's a discussion about codifying it. How do you codify something that is unique to each one of those entities?
Yeah, what? That is a long discussion, and I agree it's complicated, but I think that we can do it. The man who is the genius behind this is Chris Klump, and he's working on legislative language now, but you're happy, I mean, I'm happy to make him available to you.
Thank you. We'll submit other related questions for the record. Appreciate you being here today.
Thank you.
Support journalism you trust. Support PBS News. Donate now, or even better, start a monthly contribution today.